Last Corrin, I welcome the opportunity to speak on this piece of legislation. Minister, at the outset, I want to ask you and your department what you've got against the fourth child in working families. This is a point I put to your officials earlier on in the week when I spoke to them. You know, is it a case, Minister, that a fourth child when you were in the schoolyard years ago pulled your pigtail or something? Because it seems that there is an agenda there at present, because every child under the social welfare system where their parent is in receipt of a social welfare payment is getting increased financial support in budget 2021, except for families with 4 or more children in receipt of the working family payment. And I find this very bizarre that this small number of families across the country are the only families that are receiving a payment from the Department of Social Protection that are being excluded from an increase in the rate of payment in this year's budget. So an unemployed family with 4 children, 2 under the age of 12, will receive €728 more next year in the child dependent allowance. A 1, a 2 or a 3 child family in receipt of the working family payment will be €936 better off next year. But for the working poor with 4 children or more, they are the only ones that are being ignored in budget 2021. Many of the increases in these particular payments are to offset the increased costs of living due to the hikes in carbon tax. But if you're the working poor and you happen, unfortunately, to live outside our cities, then you can forget about it, because you'd be better off staying in bed. Because by the time 2030 comes along and we have a carbon tax of €100 a tonne, half of the households in Dublin will be paying less than €9.11 per week in transport costs, in additional transport costs, when the Dublin bus subsidy is taken into account. And yet their rural neighbours who are commuting will be paying €39.50 a week more. That's 4 times more than those that have a bus passing outside their door every 5 minutes. So if you look at the message that's being sent out by this particular social welfare bill to working families on low income, going to work with more than 4 children, don't do it. It's not worth it. You're better off to stay at home or to live in separate homes and claim the one family parent allowance. And all to save the princely sum of €2.6 million out of a €25 billion budget. That's 0.000000001 of your budget, Minister. That's 10 decimal points below 1%. So next year, Minister, your department will spend €47,500 every minute. And I'm looking for you to reallocate €5 of that €47,500 to those particular families that are on low income, in work, in receipt of the working family payment, and that they have 4 or more children. And in fairness, Minister, it's not just in this budget. Your predecessor on 2 occasions, Minister Doherty, did the same thing. But what has happened in this budget is that every other child has got some additional payment because the child dependent allowance has been increased. But these small number of families and small numbers of children are the ones that are being blatantly discriminated against by this piece of legislation. And Minister, that is wrong. And I would hope that you will review it before the passage and enactment of this legislation. Minister, if I can turn to another issue, and it's an aspect that I'm surprised is not included in the bill. As you know, the government has taken the decision to provide for medical indemnity for the 6 COVID-19 vaccines that they have signed up to and pre-purchased. I think the government has pre-purchased 8.5 million doses of vaccine, and there's more to come in terms of vaccine doses, and we'll probably have 4 or 5 more vaccines. Now, as part of the vaccination programme that you discussed at Cabinet on Tuesday, recipients will have to receive 2 vaccine doses, and they will have to be 2 weeks apart. Now, Minister, we're talking about 2 vaccine doses, 2 weeks apart. We're talking about 6 different vaccines floating around there. Minister, that's a recipe for absolute and utter chaos. And we're asking the Health Service Executive to manage it. This is the same organisation that lost 600,000 flu vaccines a few weeks ago and didn't know where they were, because they haven't got the data systems to manage a handful of flu vaccines. How in God's name are they going to manage 8.5 million vaccine doses and more? We don't have a unique health identifier, which we legislated for back here probably about 6 years ago at this stage. And I think, Minister, in the short term, while it's not an ideal solution, I think the only solution is to use the PPS number. And it's the best short-term option to be able to monitor and manage the vaccination programme across this country. But to do that, Minister, we need an amendment to the existing legislation covering the operation of the PPS number, and it's not in this legislation. And Minister, without having some type of a tracking mechanism, which I think, as I say, in the short term is only the PPS number, then managing indemnity by the State Claims Agency in terms of these vaccines will be next nigh to impossible. We need detailed and accurate records, and they're vital to flag up adverse reactions to specific vaccines. And I think it is imperative, Minister, that we have, as a matter of urgency, a full debate in this House on all of those related issues. Now, Minister, can I welcome the move that you're making in terms of the pension age threshold? I think, look, people should be able to work beyond their 66th birthday if they wish to do so, and should be able to continue to contribute to make PRSI contributions into the Social Insurance Fund. But they shouldn't be forced to do that. Now, Minister, I've come across what I believe is an anomaly in terms of the calculation of the total contributions pension, the new pension that has come in. I've had a constituent that has come to me, and you might clarify in your response. Under the existing social welfare law, the PRSI record is based from the first day you pay your first stamp in insurable employment up until the last full tax year before your 66th birthday. And that didn't cause many difficulties when you were averaging out the number of stamps over maybe a 40-year period. But with the total contributions approach, if someone's birthday is in December, they're losing out on 11 or 11 and a half months of stamps. And that could be the difference between them getting a significantly higher rate of contribution, and over the lifetime of their pension, it can have a dramatic impact on the rates that they're paid. Now, I believe that the total contribution system should be calculated up until the very last stamp is paid when a person reaches their 66th birthday or if they want to continue to go on and pay their pension contributions. And while I'm on the issue of pensions, Minister, as you know, the Joint Oireachtas Committee on Social Protection sent you a submission yesterday evening in terms of our deliberation regarding the pandemic unemployment payment. And I would again ask you to look at the issue in terms of self-employed people over the age of 66 who are not eligible for a state pension. They should be deemed eligible for the pandemic unemployment payment. We need to send out a message to people that it is okay to work beyond your 66th birthday. But in this case, what we're saying is to those people who work beyond their 66th birthday, who have been forced to shut down because of COVID-19, we're actually penalising those. So, on one hand, we want people to work later into life. We want them to contribute to the economy and contribute to the Social Insurance Fund. And on the other hand, those people that are leading in terms of those particular measures at the moment are the very ones that are being penalised by the pandemic unemployment payment. And you'll also know, Minister, that in that submission we made quite a number of recommendations in terms of the music and entertainment industry, and we had a very detailed submission that we included in our final document from the music industry. And I'd hope that you can look at the submission that has been received from the music industry. I know they have made a recommendation that the existing earnings cap of €480 should be doubled to €960, and I hope that can be considered. But I also believe, and the committee believes, Minister, that the current structure in the calculation of that cap is too inflexible to meet the needs of the entertainment industry, and that we should also look at possibly averaging that over the term of the pandemic unemployment payment. Remember, the objective here is to get people within the music and entertainment industry back into full-time work. Now, that's not going to happen overnight, we all accept that, but any opportunity they have to get gainful employment, that needs to be facilitated in every way possible. Now, I know you're going to come forward with a statutory instrument which you'll present to the committee over the coming weeks on how you're going to calculate the costs for those entertainers doing gigs, that they're taken into account in calculating these figures. And I hope that there is a very fair approach taken to that. But I do believe that we do need flexibility. That €480 threshold really needs to be looked at, and the period that it's calculated over also needs to be looked at. Can I also flag a couple of other issues, Minister? And that is that we immediately review the interaction of the pandemic unemployment payment with the wage subsidy schemes, because I think, and I fundamentally believe, that every person possible should be kept on a wage subsidy scheme rather than being forced down the road of the pandemic unemployment payment. I think it's imperative to keep that connection between employers and employees. I think it's better from an employer's point of view in getting people back on an incremental basis back into full-time work. And it's better for the employee in trying to maintain their current level of income rather than taking a drop in terms of the pandemic unemployment payment and having to sign on for that. Very finally, Minister, I want to compliment you, your predecessor and your team of officials in the department, and in particular the officials right across the country, across Roscommon, Longford, Sligo and Letterkenny in particular, in the regional offices, for the tremendous amount of work that was done in processing a phenomenal number of pandemic unemployment applications over a very short period of time, and for their efforts in responding to us late at night and sometimes on Saturdays and at weekends in terms of queries that we raised with them.
Thank you,
and I want to say Goramila Mahagut to you for that.